In the early 2000s, when I was the sales manager for a local IT company in Ohio, I needed to meet and build relationships with other business owners in the area so that when they had an IT need come up, like upgrading their server or expanding their network, my company and I were top of mind. So I attended weekly breakfast networking meetings and I showed up at fundraisers and other community events, and I spent time getting to know the people in my community. Fast forward to today, and most of us are now focused on global e-commerce and building communities of followers, connections, clients, and partners, people who may not live or work anywhere near us. It's a digital community, and that presents a challenge when it comes to relationship building. How are we supposed to develop personal relationships today with people we may never meet face to face? Well, that's what we're covering in today's episode of Partnership Unpacked. This is Partnership Unpacked, your go-to guide to growing your business through partnerships quickly. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and each episode unpacks the winning strategies and latest trends from influencer marketing to brand partnerships and ideas that you can apply to your own business to grow exponentially. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to Partnership Unpacked, where I selfishly use this time to pick the brains of experts at strategic partnerships, channel programs, influencer marketing, affiliates, and relationship building. Oh, and you get to learn too. Subscribe to learn how you can amplify your growth strategy with a solid takeaway every episode from partnership experts in the industry. And today, we're talking about one of those core tenets of partnerships, relationship building. But as I mentioned, so many of us are focused on building relationships on a global stage, relying on digital tools and digital networks that we lack the capability and the benefit of face to face meetings and in person exchanges. Ironically, it was at an in person event where I met today's guest, Raquel Boris, and she is an absolute treasure when it comes to social networking. Raquel is the marketing manager for New American Funding and the host of her own YouTube channel, Rack the Boat, where she's creating fantastic content for and with kids. And that aligns with her mission for Rack Vision, a safe social network for youth. And what I love about Raquel is her unparalleled passion and enthusiasm, which is demonstrated in her role as Chief Excitement Officer of True to You branding. She's been helping others understand how to develop personal brands that are true to them on social networks, particularly LinkedIn, which lead to real connections, real community, and real conversations. And I couldn't be more excited to have her and her expertise on the show. Raquel, welcome to Partnership Unpacked.
Hi, thank you for having me. I love the intros. Thank you.
My
It's really good for the
pleasure.
ego.
Well, I want you to feel great. I want everybody else to feel great that you're here because this is going to be fantastic. And I always like to kind of set the stage for our listeners and community by letting them and letting you share how you got started in social media and a bit about the work that you're doing today.
So I started out actually on LinkedIn. I had gotten off of Facebook. I'd gotten divorced and I didn't want to deal with anybody, having to ask questions. So I got off of Facebook. Instagram was still in its infancy stages, and I kept getting all these invites for this network called LinkedIn. And I had just started in the corporate world, like I said, just divorced. So I thought, okay, you know what, business platform, this makes sense if I'm trying to navigate that world. And so I got on, but I started actually studying LinkedIn right away. Like I was like, okay, what is this platform all about? What do people post? What are people liking? And so I just every day just kind of scrolled through and just was like very intuitive and perceptive about like how the platform worked. And it's very different today, but that's just how I started. And then I just started slowly posting. And when I posted, I always tried to showcase somebody else. Like I didn't want it to be necessarily about myself because at the time I wasn't selling a product. I didn't have my own business. I was working for a builder. I was developing their customer service department. So for me, I'm like, what? I mean, nobody cares what I do. So then I just started kind of like showcasing other people when I would go to events, and that's just kind of how it like evolved into what it is now, and which is really cool. I think the best part of it, it was really organic and it wasn't intentional at first, and now it's completely different, and now it's allowed me to have a career and have a platform and have a voice. And so it's just really cool how it all kind of panned out over the last decade, because it'll be 10 years next year that I'll be on LinkedIn. Hi,
Wow.
Meryl.
Wow. That's fascinating. I love it. Yeah, we've got um, Meryl Koss, who's
Yeah,
here in
and
the
Meryl,
audience.
it's oddly enough too, speaking of like just building relationships, he reached out to me on LinkedIn years ago. I want to say maybe back in like 2018 or so, or 2019. And we ended up getting on a call pretty soon thereafter. And now he's like one of my biggest supporters on LinkedIn. So it's pretty cool. So thank you for showing up, Meryl.
Love it. And that's exactly why we're having this conversation, why we're having this conversation with you, because these kinds of digital relationships are important and they can certainly be fostered and found on the various social networks. But what about LinkedIn? What makes it so good for creating these kinds of personal connections, for fostering your personal brand? What is it that you love about LinkedIn?
I don't know. I feel like it gives you access to people that you weren't necessarily have. Like I feel like on Instagram, Facebook, it's different. Like LinkedIn, people are on here intentionally, like they want to, build their business and gain clients, build relationships. So I feel like when you reach out to someone that might feel like they're unattainable or they're too far out of your league, for whatever reason on LinkedIn, I've managed to create relationships with those people that I would never imagine having essentially friendships with. So I think that part of LinkedIn is really, truly amazing. I feel like most people can attest to that, where you can reach out to the CEO of some large company and most likely they'll respond. I mean, I pretty much have had like a 90% return rate on my DMs. And when I DM people, a lot of times it's an audio message where people didn't even realize that you had the capability to send an audio message, or I'll send a video message as well. So even when I reach out to people, I make it very personal. Like I don't just, spam anybody. I've never done that. It's always been intentional. And I've always, if there's a certain post that resonates with me, then I'll comment about it. I had someone, I won't name names, but same thing, like very pretty high up, and have their parents like very well known. And I didn't even know until after I reached out. I was like, oh crap, I don't think this person's going to respond, when I found out who this person was. And they responded right away. And I had sent them an audio message and they were so appreciative. And I was just in shock that this person actually responded in a really kind manner as well. So it just goes to show you that, sometimes it's worth the risk. At least it has been for me to reach out to folks.
Yeah, and I want to kind of underline one of the things that you said, which is that LinkedIn as a platform makes it easier to actually connect with
Hmm.
these individuals, regardless of their title and the status. And the reason I want to draw that out is because people have said that about other networks too. But the difference is that when we're talking about connecting with someone on LinkedIn, what is created there is a real relationship, a real connection. And
Yeah.
just as an example, I'm not saying this to drop names, but I was in Hollywood last week and I took a picture of myself in front of the Hollywood stars
Huh?
and I tweeted about that picture and I tagged that individual and they responded to the tweet, which was super cool. I mean, it was a little bit of a, wow, kind of a
Yeah.
fanboy moment for me, and it was pretty cool for the tweet too, because they've got, I don't know, 500,000 followers or something. But the thing is, that individual and I do not have a relationship. We do not have a connection. There was a fleeting moment. They saw my tweet. They thought that was cool. They said hi. And now they've gone on with their lives. They're not still talking
Right.
about my call.
They're like,
I'll
that
be
guy
talking about that
might.
for a while. But it's different on LinkedIn, like you said, because if you're creating a personal invitation, if you're reaching out to somebody and you're doing, a voice message, a video message, you're talking about them in a personal way. Hey, I'd like to connect with you because of dot, dot, dot. And they say yes. Now
Mhm.
it's not just a digital connection. There's a little bit more of an emotional, real connection there, huh?
Yeah. I love, and that's like even Merrill, going back to him. I mean, he'll send me posts that remind him of me, like UCLA, or if it has to do with San Diego. And I love that. Like he truly is paying attention and, thinking of me when he sees these posts. And there's something about that I think is just really heartwarming. I don't know. It's just, it just feels special. Like I've never met him, but there's something there. There's like a connection, right?
Right, right. But speaking of that, so you've got LinkedIn, we're creating these connections. They're still digital connections, right?
Right.
They're still intangible. How do you create a presence that feels so much more tangible?
Good question. I think it was creating content around who I am and who I am as a person, and then it was just really relatable to people. So that to me, I found was kind of, I want to say, like the secret sauce, at least for me, where people feel like they know me. And even on Instagram, I get even a little bit crazier and goofy. I'm the queen of goofiness here on LinkedIn, but I'll tell you on Instagram, I take it even further. So I just kind of like, I'm kind of an open book. And so I feel that at the end of the day, it was just being able to be vulnerable and transparent and just like 100% who I am, that that's when just the magic happened, essentially, right? It's like bringing together the back, like the behind the scenes, where I'm creating those relationships behind the scenes, but then also just having that visibility and putting myself out there in a way where even if people don't connect with me or talk to me, they still feel a connection with me, through the content. So I found that that was really important.
That makes a lot of sense, right? We're able to feel that connection because there is something that is relatable
Mhm.
between us. You're saying something online on LinkedIn, or for those of you listening, you could be doing the same thing on Twitter, I guess, if it's not still a dumpster fire, right? Or some of the other networks. You could be saying things about yourself that other people, the people that you really want to talk to, the people that you want to reach and connect to, they're going to relate to that, and they're going to have that emotional connection, which is going to feel real. And I'm stressing that word feel because that's what's so important about what we're doing in digital today,
Mhm.
that we're evoking emotions and we're causing people to feel something inside and not just passively scan or scroll with the thumb. Love it.
Yeah.
So now, as someone who spends a remarkable amount of time. I'm not going to ask you how much time, but you spend a remarkable amount of time on LinkedIn, using LinkedIn and other kinds of social media. How do you define and measure the return on that investment? How do you justify the ROI?
Yeah, it's funny how many people I've had that, especially being that I'm on the marketing side, in the mortgage world, where a lot of people, I've had past managers kind of question the ROI. But for me, it's really the relationships and the fact that I have so many incredible connections, and I can literally like connect other people to other people. Like, I feel like that, having that in my back pocket, every time I talk to someone, I'm like, oh, you know what? You should talk to this person. Or, oh my gosh, like, you need to follow this person because they're doing what you're doing and I think you would gain value. So my ROI is really the people that are in my network and in my community. Like, I can't even tell you like the kind of 6 degrees of separation on this platform, and it's allowed me so many opportunities and to get in front of so many people that I wouldn't have. It's the people. I mean, even today I was commenting on one of my friends' posts about, because he had said the 6 things to do on LinkedIn. I said the one thing that I feel like is missing too is that, why are you on these social media platforms? Like, I'm not selling a product, I'm not selling a service. I'm helping, our loan officers with their social media. I'm helping people with their brand. So really, like, why am I doing this? And a lot of times I have to remind myself, and it really is about attracting like minded people, because I know that to further my mission, to further my passion, it's the people that are going to get me there, and it's the right people that are going to get me there. So that's why I am very intentional on this platform with reaching out to certain people and to connecting people. Once again, it's, you have to add value in some way. And I feel like that I really do add value in those connections and the people that I know, because I love to share them. Like, I have people DM me, hey, can you give me an intro with so and so? And if it makes sense, yes, I'll do it. Obviously, if it doesn't make sense and it's a little awkward, I'll say something, but usually I'll do the intro.
It's about the people. Such a
Mhm.
great underlining statement. Love it. In fact, that's why we do the podcast. It's the same principle. It's really hard to demonstrate numbers in terms of
Mhm.
ROI from podcasting, just as it's hard to demonstrate numbers in terms of ROI from relationship building. But if you can create strong relationships with individuals that you can recommend and then they can in turn recommend you later, that's fantastic. Now, real quick, I've got a message that I want to share with you from our CMO at Agorapulse, Daryl Preo, on some other ways that you can track the ROI of social media.
It's the Arc de Triomphe. Can you imagine if you're in charge, if you're the CMO of marketing Paris? What are your main channels? Wow, there's the Arc de Triomphe, there's the Eiffel Tower, there's the Louvre. Those are your channels you're going to use to drive tourism dollars in. Okay, now, but you're not the CMO of Paris. In fact, you're the CMO of your company, product, service. So what are your main channels? Well, I'm going to guess there are things like pay-per-click, maybe trade shows, events, maybe content. Those are all pretty predictable, right? Let me ask you this question. Are you treating social media as a main channel? By the way, only 1.8% of you today measure social media and can prove an ROI in that investment. HubSpot and Gartner say social media is the #1 channel to invest in this year. Are you doing it? If not, I can tell you why. You're not doing it because you don't have the tools, you don't have the mentality, and that's okay. We've got you covered. You change the mentality, we'll give you the tool. Agorapulse tracks all the ROI for you. One place to manage all your social media activity, your #1 channel. Change your success. Treat social media as a channel, one CMO to another. My name is Daryl. I'm with Agorapulse. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, so now we're
And I met
back with
Daryl, so it's
Raquel
kind of.
Burris. What's that?
I said, and I've met Daryl, so that was kind of cool.
That's right. Yeah, you and I, we met Daryl at the same time in San Diego, which was fantastic. It's one of our VIP events, our Tactics and Tastings tour. Which, just a quick aside for those of you listening, one of the things that we do at Agorapulse, one of the things that I do, is I schedule these VIP senior marketer events at different cities around the world all year long, purely for networking, purely to sit down and have that face-to-face time with the individuals in different cities that we wouldn't necessarily get to see or talk to otherwise, and create those wonderful connections. But a lot of us can't do that. A lot of us don't have that opportunity. I can't be in every city, every single month. I can only get to pick one city each month. So that's why we're talking to Rick out, because we want to figure out how we can use the tools and the networks and the digital platforms at our disposal today to build these digital relationships. So for the CMOs and the partnership leaders who are listening, how would you recommend, Rick, out, that they get started on LinkedIn if they, for some reason, haven't been paying a lot of attention to LinkedIn up until now?
Well, I will tell you this. I was at a conference about a month ago. It was called SocialCon, and it was a social media conference geared towards real estate agents in the mortgage industry. But they brought on people of influence outside of the industry that had influence on like TikTok, Instagram, and it's really funny because all these people that were on stage speaking, they were like millions of followers on TikTok, Instagram, but when it came to LinkedIn, like they just didn't know how to tap in. So this is where you have to take a risk, and you have to have a little bit of like chutzpah there and guts. And I went up to these so-called social media influencers that I didn't know. I just learned about them on stage because I'm not a big TikToker. And I went up and I said, hey, I'm on LinkedIn and I love it. And I'd be more than willing to kind of get you guys on this platform in a way that like could be really fun. Do you want to do a video? So two of them that were huge on TikTok did a video in that moment. And that's how I introduced them to LinkedIn and what they're doing, because obviously they've mastered those other social media platforms. They got on and they're sharing their TikToks, which is fine. Like I feel that in the start of it all, LinkedIn was kind of like this boring platform, and now a lot of people brought their content from other platforms, and it seems to work. People are the Instagram reels and the TikToks, so they're doing that, and they're slowly gaining an audience. Like I'm trying to support them. I told them that they should engage in other people's content, that they should just post. And I feel like slowly they'll start understanding the platform, because a lot of times I can sit here and tell you what you should and shouldn't do. But at the end of the day, like you have to be able to experience it yourself and kind of, make mistakes, fail on the platform a little bit. There's plenty of things that I've posted where just went wah, 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 right? And just be consistent with it. So for me, I just tell people, get on in a way that feels comfortable for you. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing, because I think that's what happens too, is that everyone gets caught up in what like the influencers on that certain platform are doing. And at the end of the day, it's you that's going to stand out, like your personality. So that's why I always encourage people just to do what feels right for them. And then it can naturally evolve, because my brand essentially has evolved. And the content that I put out there, the way that I utilize LinkedIn has evolved over time. And that's okay. That's going to happen. But I think so many people think they have to get on and go viral right away or automatically get business. And that's not the case. It does take time and patience. But the first step is just to get on and do it. And that's, I think, sometimes the hardest part for people.
Oh my gosh, I love this advice so much. And there's two fantastic points that you just made that I want to draw out. The first is that we can't look at social networks and the people that are already successful
Mhm.
on those social networks and expect to immediately replicate that success. That's not reasonable. You wouldn't look at a job or any other kind of activity. I wouldn't expect to walk onto the Wimbledon court today and play tennis as well as a tennis star. That's not possible or reasonable. And the second thing is to think about the fact that everything that you're doing is a journey and there's an evolution. And so the content that you're creating today, the networks that you're building, the activities that you're doing, the work that you're doing, it's all going to be better in a day, a week, a month, a year from now. And I can swear to God, if you go back and read my first blog posts from a decade ago, they are garbage. I don't want to read them, but they were a necessary step, right? I wouldn't be the writer that I am today if I had started writing over a decade ago.
Yeah.
So I
Well, video for me
love
too.
that
When
you
I
brought
did
that
my
up.
first videos, they were awful. To this day, my ex-husband and my kids make fun of that first video that I did for LinkedIn back in 2018. I had this weird angle. I was kind of stiff. I wasn't being me. But I thought that I had to put on this persona because I was on LinkedIn. So I thought, oh, I got to be like super button up and very professional. And I don't know why, but over time, I guess, loosened up and showed more of my personality. And as I did that, that's when I realized I was attracting more people and more people were relating with me. And that's where I had that like light bulb moment one day where I was like, wait, I could be 100% me and still be considered professional and business and, make business or do business or whatever you want to say. But yeah, so that's where I realized that, yeah, people can see right through that kind of fakeness, and that when you're trying to be someone you're not. Maybe at first they'll buy into it, but I feel like over time,
Hmm.
and then plus who can sustain that? I know I wasn't able to sustain that either. I think that's why I started showing my personality, because I was like, this is not me. And I just feel really awkward being somebody I'm not.
So true. Absolutely. So now let's take it deeper. Let's go more advanced. So again, we're talking to people, we're trying to help them
Yeah.
level up on LinkedIn. What are some advanced or like next level strategies that you've seen a lot of success with on LinkedIn, particularly when it comes to like networking?
The engagement piece of it. I think people forget that if you're going to post and you expect people to engage and like your content, guess what? You have to reciprocate. And I feel like there's a lot of people that it's hard for them to reciprocate. And I feel like that's really where a lot of the kind of yumminess comes in, is through that engagement and commenting on other people's posts. And also what happens is for instance, if there's a client or a future client that you want to work with, or someone that you would love to connect with, but feels kind of odd to reach out to them right away, then guess what you could do? And it's worked for me and for other people. Just start engaging in their content. Be a fan. Because what happens is when that person realizes that that person's a true supporter, like Merrill, like he's been supporting me, like I feel like he's a true fan. Guess what? When he reaches out to me, I'm going to respond. Or if he asks for something, it's human nature and it's like basically human decency to reciprocate. If that person's giving all that time and energy into your content, like why wouldn't, as gratitude, why wouldn't you respond? And so I've done that in the past where I didn't feel kind of comfortable reaching out to someone at first, but I was like, all right, I'm going to show them I'm a super fan of theirs so that when I do reach out, they already feel like they know me too because of the way that I comment on their posts. Like, so when I comment, I basically write it out the way that I would say it. Like, I'm goofy about it. I'm a smart ass, emojis, I make it silly. I'll put, I have like my Bitmoji with my little queen thing, and I'll do something kind of fun. And so a lot of times people can get a sense of who I am just through the comments. And then when you do reach out, they already feel like they know you too. So I have found that engagement piece is really important, where I think before people didn't take it as seriously, and people are realizing that you can be like a great engager commenter and still have a name on this platform and not post any content. Like, there is someone on this platform that is probably one of the biggest cheerleaders for everybody, and he rarely posts anything, but when he does, guess what? Everybody is quick to respond, to engage. I mean, his posts like tend to go viral now because everybody is that's like their way of showing gratitude for this guy for him being a super fan of their content. So I really feel like at the end of the day, it's this reciprocation piece that is really necessary, because we tend to forget that if we're gonna want, if we want to receive, we have to give as well. So I think that's really very important.
I couldn't agree more. When I'm telling brands how to start influencer marketing, one of the things I tell them is identify the influencers they want to work with and then begin by following them on
Mhm.
their preferred social networks. And LinkedIn makes this so easy because while you could issue a connection request, if I don't know you, I'm probably not going to accept it, but you can follow me. I can follow other influencers that I want to work with. And just like you said, I can pay attention to what they're posting and when, and I can comment. And that's where we're going to start to build rapport as individuals. We're going to start to get to know each other a little bit more. And like you said, have some of your own personality come through in those comments, so that when you do want to connect, when you do want to reach out and do something really interesting with that influencer, it's so much easier to do that. But one thing I'll tell people too is be careful how often you do that. Don't just like every single thing that
Oh, yeah.
somebody posts or share every single thing, because then you become a bit of a stalker, and we don't want that, right? So what would you say would be a cautionary tale that's kind of along those same lines? What should we not do on LinkedIn? What are CMOs and other executives that, what are they getting wrong today?
I think this has gotten better, and I think because LinkedIn, the algorithm got a little smarter about it. There was a time where people were posting everybody that had a large network and had influence on LinkedIn, and oh my gosh, it was so annoying because I would see that I get tagged on these people's posts and they had nothing to do with me. I didn't even know who they were. They never engaged in my content. So I just thought it was really obnoxious. I'm sorry, I'm going to say, I'm like, this is gross. Like, what makes you think that I'm going to like your post so that it can reach more people when you're not putting the time and energy to even engage in mine, or I don't even know who you are, right? So like, that to me was a complete turnoff when people were doing that. But like I said, I feel like it's gotten better. The algorithm, I think what happens is, I'm not like super technical when it comes to LinkedIn, but I think what happens is if you're going to tag people, make sure it makes sense and make sure that they respond, so that the algorithm understands like these people that the people that are being tagged are actually responding and commenting. Okay, they make sense. We'll go ahead and keep pushing that post. I think what was happening before is all these people were tagging in the comments, no one was responding, and the algorithm was just like, okay, this is just junk, and then they were pushing it down. So I think the tagging aspect of it, it's really important that it make sense on LinkedIn, on any platform, because that could be very detrimental to you as a person, because you don't want the reputation that you're just someone taking advantage, because that's how I see it. I see it as this person is trying to take advantage. They're trying to use me as a shortcut to get more views on their content. And some people might say something differently, like the more views the better, the more people it reaches the better. But I don't know, for me, I'm that's not the way I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If someone does that to me more than a couple times, I
Mhm.
drop that connection.
Yeah.
So, they're putting their relationship with me at risk, which means they're putting their relationship with my network at risk, because they're doing it because they want to reach my network, which I completely understand. As an influencer marketing professional, I get it, right? I want to reach the networks of the influencers that I'm working with. but it's incumbent upon us to do it the right way and to make sure that they're doing it in an authentic way.
I love my network and my community, and I hold them dearly. And so the last thing I want them to feel is that I'm taking advantage of them either. Like I don't want to exploit my my network. And so it's that trust factor within your community and network, which is really huge too, where I feel like a lot of people forget that you still need to respect your community and have respect on the social media platforms. You know how you get a lot of trolls and haters and they'll just say stuff. I'm like, yeah, but would you say that in person to someone in real life if you actually knew them? You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
just remember that there's still a human on the other side of this. So if you're trying to exploit, take advantage, like it just doesn't feel right.
So true. Yeah. Do it exactly what you would do in real life. Love it. So my last question, and this is always my favorite question. I ask this of every guest, regardless of how I know how they're going to answer, which in this case, I'm pretty sure how you're going to answer, but I love it. How important have relationships been and their partnerships have been to your career and your professional success?
I'm here because of LinkedIn and because of my relationships, hands down. Like when people, say, "Oh, did it really change your life?" It literally changed my life. It changed the trajectory of my life by sharing certain personal things on this platform and just the relationships. It's. I'll give you. Can I give you just like a cool story
Please.
and to give you an idea of like kind of how relationships can work and how you can meet the most like people that you would never think. So several years ago, or maybe 4 years ago, I had a guy reach out to me in the mortgage industry, but was like a speaker, and he wanted to get into kind of more of the affiliate organizations in the mortgage industry. He reached out. He said, "You're an influencer," and that was before influencer was a word. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I'll connect you. And so I was able to get some connections for him. I think he ended up doing some speaking engagements, and then he turns around and says, "Hey, there's a guy that does a mental health awareness campaign, and I'm big on mental health. He's trying to tap in LinkedIn. Can you help him with LinkedIn?" So we connected. He's in Australia. I helped him with his brand, with marketing on LinkedIn. We built a friendship. And then I was on one of his calls. And meanwhile, Justin Guarini from American Idol and Diet Dr. Pepper, he was on the call for this mental health awareness campaign. He and I end up connecting. Then COVID hits. Guess what? Broadway shuts down. He's trying to basically still make money. And he's like, "Well, I have a book and I have these audition street secret course. I need to go ahead and promote it." So I got him on LinkedIn, helped him. He did Shay Rowbottom's LinkedIn Live, all these things. And then just kind of fast forward, I was just in New York City last week, went to go see him on Broadway because we've remained friends. And we met once before at the show in DC, and now it's on Broadway. He's starring in one of the starring roles. We went out to dinner beforehand, got to see him on there. And like, it's just really cool where everyone's like, "How do you know Justin Guarini?" I'm like, it all comes back to LinkedIn. And they're like, "What?" So, and then because of him, I've had an interaction with Michael Bublé on social media. Like Michael Bublé and I interacted because he and I had done an IG live, and Michael Bublé like came on and started interacting. So how cool is that? Like, right? I mean, it's an instance that most people couldn't imagine, but it's because of the relationships that I've managed to create and build and nurture on this platform. So it's like it goes beyond so much more. And that's, I think, what it's really important, that it's a long game. It's bigger picture thinking, at least for me.
Love it. Love it. And again, this is why I ask this question every single episode. I love hearing these stories. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. And I love the basic truths that keep coming out, even though it looks and sounds different for every individual that I talk to. It always boils down to, relationships have been everything. Here's why. I wouldn't have the job that I have. I wouldn't have the friends that I have. I wouldn't have the network that I have. I wouldn't have the
I wouldn't
fame,
have
the
the job that I
success,
have. Yeah.
whatever. So, for me, a lot of it boils down to I wouldn't have the mindset that I have if I didn't have the people around me that I have met through social media. We're now, lifelong fast friends, and they support me as a mastermind and best friends. And it's fantastic. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being our guest here today. This has been terrific. You are so amazing. And this has been such an important interview because I want to stress to everybody listening, you need to be investing more time in LinkedIn. So with that, please share with everybody. Obviously, they can find you on LinkedIn, and we'll have the links in the show notes. But Tell us more about where they can learn more about you.
LinkedIn and Instagram are my two platforms. I'm not on any other platforms. I'm on TikTok, but I can't figure it out yet. So LinkedIn and Instagram. And then I would love it if people would hop on over to YouTube and check out my Rock the Boat channel, where I have conversations with kids, because that is a passion project that I really want to continue to focus on. It's just hard because there's only so much time in the day. But if I could have your support with that, that would be fantastic as well.
Love it. And like I said, we will have that link in the show notes and everything else. The Rock the Boat videos are fantastic. Just go
Thank
to YouTube right now and look them up. They're wonderful. And that's all we've got for today, folks. I do want to tell you one interesting development is that I now have a newsletter on LinkedIn. It's fantastic. It's the Partnership Unpacked newsletter. So every week, every Monday, there's a new podcast that gets dropped. And there's a new newsletter where I'm going back to one of the past episodes, and we're really pulling apart and unpacking some of the lessons that were learned. We've talked to Dr. Mark Brigman, we've talked to Nicole Ponce from SEMrush, and so on. So subscribe to that newsletter on LinkedIn if you're not already, and check that out. That episode, those issues, and the new podcast episodes are coming out every single Monday. So until next time, keep on partnering, folks. Thank you for listening to another episode of Partnership Unpacked, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player. Be sure to leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us. And if you want to be part of our audience during live broadcasts, take a look at our calendar at agorapulse.com/calendar. Until next time.